Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to an episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did. So let's get started. Number 5 was Wuthering Heights, making $3.7 million this weekend, bringing its domestic total to $78 million and its worldwide total to $213 million. So Wuthering Heights continues to do fine, nothing great, but not the disaster people were expecting it to be. Actually it had the best hold in its entire theatrical run, just falling around 45%, which, hey, given how long it's been staying around the top 5 and given the expectations and the response, it's pretty impressive it's managed to live its box office run out for this long. Again, many people were hoping or expecting at least for this to completely fall off in its second weekend, but the fact that it's had this much staying power is, again, pretty impressive considering the response this movie has had. And it's not like this is a flop or anything. It surpassed 200 million worldwide, which I'm sure Warner Brothers is very happy about, that this movie's been breaking some box office milestones, especially considering the other movie they've got out right now, but more on that later. Yeah, this is still a pretty solid run. Again, I know a lot of people were hoping this would do much better given, the legacy of the book and how hyped this seemed to be, and with it coming under expectations, it looked like a disaster. But hey, it sort of proved people wrong. Again, it's not an Anyone But You or The Housemaid, but it's certainly not the disaster people were hoping it would be. And I think it had a pretty solid run, all things considered, even with its being most likely its last week in the top 5. We got a big romantic movie coming out this weekend. I'm sure that's gonna remove the wind beneath this movie's sails. So hey, at least it was able to do what it needed to do, break some box office milestones and be the big romantic movie out right now. So yeah, while it didn't reach the highs people were expecting it to do, it still did fine for the response and circumstances it went through. Number 4 was Goat, making $6.4 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $83 million and a worldwide total of $146 million. So Goat was actually to fend off the competition pretty well. It still had its biggest drop, but like Wuthering Heights, it only dropped around 45%, which again is pretty impressive, especially considering the competition. There was a big new animated movie that came out this weekend. It pretty much stole a lot of this movie's audience, or that's what the expectation was going into this weekend, because it really seemed to hold its ground, stand strong. I think a large part of it was just, many families made this their plan B, their second option in case there wasn't many seats for the other animated movie. So that's probably a factor here. But also I do think, again, just the response and word of mouth for this has been so strong and positive that people still want to go give it a shot while they can. And, it's still reaping the rewards. And again, it does show that both of these animated movies can coexist. Obviously, one's been out for longer than the other, but it still shows that there's room for everybody, if you know what I mean. And with spring break fluctuating throughout the country this month, it still has enough time for kids to go and check it out if they want to, or see it for the second or however many times they want to go, even if the new one is a bit more appealing. So yeah, still some pretty solid numbers for Goat. It'll be interesting to see if it can keep this momentum going throughout the rest of its run. Again, I feel like we're heading towards the slowdown period for this movie. Again, it's been out for longer than the new animated movie, and it does seem to be slowing down a bit internationally. But hey, it's still got a couple more countries to open at the end of the month, so hopefully that can boost up its international numbers. But yeah, it's still heading on the right track. I still think it's going to rival the first Space Jam to be the biggest basketball movie ever. And again, it's done so well already. I think this movie still has a shot at continuing to grow. Number 3 was The Bride, opening with $7 million this weekend domestically and $13 million worldwide. Oh boy, oh dear. Okay, I did not have the highest expectations going into this weekend for this movie, and even looking back, hindsight, I feel like I was even being a bit too optimistic with this movie. My God, there's just there's just nothing. There's nothing to really like salvage this or turn this ship around. It's just there was just no hype or interest with this at all. I thought, maybe it would have like a spillover effect from Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and maybe like, I don't know, some of the more niche fans of however you would describe this movie might just come out and go out and see it. It stands out from the crowd. Maybe that'll bring some curious moviegoers, but no, this wasn't it. I'm sorry. I'm probably being too harsh on this because, again, it ends a really strong winning streak for Warner Brothers, and this clearly was a passion project for Maggie Gyllenhaal, and I'm glad she was able to make her passion project, but unfortunately this is a dud on every single level. I feel like they just did not know what to do with this movie. The marketing wasn't very great. They put it out in the spring. I said last week that maybe this would have done better in the fall, but I mean, clearly, I just don't think there was much anticipation or hype surrounding this thing, and unfortunately it doesn't seem like people who saw this really enjoyed it either. Critics were largely split. Last I checked on Rotten Tomatoes, it was at 59%, so really split between the critics, but audiences, the few who saw this, who went out and see this, did not like it much either. It got a C+ on CinemaScore, which is just not good at all for this, so yeah, legs on this. Word of mouth is looking even worse. I doubt this movie has staying power. I doubt this movie gets to like half of where it needs to, because this is also pretty expensive for a movie like this. It's an $80 to $90 million movie. This is just one of those openings that is just really bad, and I just don't see a silver lining for this. Just really, really horrible opening altogether. I wish there was a silver lining. I wish there was a spin to this, but there's just nothing, unfortunately. This is just a really bad start. Number 2 was Scream 7, making $17 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $93 million and a worldwide total of $149 million. Remember how I've been constantly reiterating how, well, Wuthering Heights is doing fine because, people were expecting it to collapse in that second weekend and completely fall off. This is what people were expecting to happen with that movie, just a complete fall off in its second weekend. This had a huge drop of 72%. My goodness, that's more than just being front loaded. That is just really bad, like just a bad second weekend to be at. I think the B- CinemaScore is really taking effect here. The word of mouth does not seem to be helping this movie out at all. The Scream fans weren't satisfied. General audiences don't seem to be too satisfied. It let a lot of people down. Now, granted, it's not like the movie's in any real trouble or anything. Again, this was a $45 million movie. It's about to crack $150 million worldwide. It's still going to be the biggest film in the franchise, and I'm sure it's not slowing down Scream 8's plans that are going to start really soon. But this is definitely something they need to take into consideration. It's pretty clear that, yeah, again, a lot of people went out to see that first weekend, but a lot of people were unsatisfied with the movie they got, and now it's gonna really like spill over into Scream 8, because now the expectation for that movie is like, well, the last one wasn't too good. What'll make this one any different? So they're probably gonna have to course correct the course correction that they did with this movie. So yeah, again, the movie's not in any real danger here. It's still gonna be a huge box office success. It's definitely not slowing down the plans for the Scream franchise. It doesn't put an end to the franchise like Scream 4 did way back when. But yeah, this is definitely concerning, definitely a cause for like to raise some alarm bells, like, oh goodness, the legs on this may not be too strong. It may stumble a lot more than we expected. I think this weekend it'll bounce back, but then after that with Ready or Not 2 and They Will Kill You and even The Mummy later in April, I think that's gonna cause a bit more damage to this movie than they expected. Again, just the response and word of mouth has not been too kind on this. It's still financially successful, it's still making money, but yeah, this is definitely concerning for the film's legs from here on out. And finally, let's end the video off with the number one movie of the weekend, which was Hoppers, opening with $45 million this weekend domestically and $87 million worldwide. This is Pixar's 20th biggest opening ever. It topped The Good Dinosaur, but still sits behind Ratatouille. It's the biggest opening for a family and animated film this year, topping, well, Goat. It's the biggest opening for an original animated film this decade, topping Onward, Elemental, Goat, and Elio. And it's the second biggest opening of the year overall, sitting behind Scream 7, but still able to top Wuthering Heights, Goat, and Send Help. Talk about an overperformance. I thought Goat exceeded expectations last month. This really went high, and I had high expectations for this movie last week, but you know, there was still some concern about maybe Pixar lost its magic. Are people really gonna venture out to original animated movies? I know Goat did well, but was that a fluke? But clearly not. People were really pumped and excited to go and check it out. I really think, you know, the marketing really delivered here. They definitely learned their lessons from Elio last year. They went above and beyond with this movie's marketing. All the posters and commercials, all the little stunts they did with Tom the Lizard, and it seems that $10 million Super Bowl ad literally paid off for them, you know, and it got a lot of buzz and hype surrounding this movie. I saw a lot of people were really hyped and excited to go and check out a new Pixar movie, which is something we haven't seen outside of like the major sequels in a while. You know, there was clearly pent-up demand and hype surrounding this movie. And while yes, it is still one of the pricier animated films, this is still Pixar. It cost $150 million to make. It's clear that, you know, it's still headed on the right track. Again, almost 90 million worldwide already. Internationally, this movie's performing about on par with its domestic numbers, and it's looking to be even stronger as it releases in a couple more markets, including China. The future's looking bright for this movie, as the response and reception to it has also been really, really positive. It's been one of the much more well-received Pixar movies, especially critically. It's at our 94% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is one of their highest rated films in a while, and audiences are also really enjoying it as well. It got the A on Cinema Score, on par with Goat, and considering how well that movie has held up, I can only imagine this movie is going to hold up even stronger. Again, I've been seeing so many people talk about how much they've loved this movie, saying it's one of the best original Pixar movies in a while. I really think this is going to hold out well throughout the rest of the month, as it is the only new major animated and family movie out right now. Again, Goat is nearing the end of its run. Mario won't be out until April, and The Breadwinner moved to late May, so it has all of March to itself. And again, with spring break fluctuating throughout the month in the country, kids will have some time to go and check this movie out for sure. So yeah, a great start for Hoppers, and the future's looking pretty bright for the film, thankfully, given the strong reception and word of mouth it seems to be spurring about. I really am curious to see how far and high this will go. I definitely think this has got a shot at reaching Elemental numbers, maybe even Puss in Boots numbers, but we'll see if it can truly get there. But as far as its opening, yeah, this is a fantastic start for Hoppers. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend's new big wide release is Reminders of Him. That's right, Colleen Hoover is back, and she's got another doozy of a premise here. It's about a girl who falls in love with this guy, but they end up in a car accident that causes him to get killed, so she gets sent to prison, and when she's released, she wants to see the child they had and try to make amends with those whose trust she's broken, and also falls in love with another man. Yep, a bit of a doozy. Definitely a lot going on here. Now look, I don't think this is going to be the next It Ends With Us or anything, you know, or I'm not even sure if it's going to reach the heights of Wuthering Heights. But if Regretting You taught me anything, it is to not underestimate Colleen Hoover. She has a very devoted fan base, and her name carries a lot of weight. With this being the next film of hers to get a feature film adaptation, I can only imagine how strong this movie's gonna do, even if it has horrible critical and audience reception, because let's be honest, Regretting You did not get the best reception when it first came out, but it had like insanely strong legs. Like, that movie just really overperformed, and I can see that happening here again. It's one of the few romantic movies out right now. Wuthering Heights is losing steam. This is definitely going to capture a lot of attention of those who love good romance movies, and definitely for the female audience as well. Again, not much out right now for them to go see. The marketing has been pretty solid, not to the degree of It Ends With Us, but I've seen a lot of stuff and promos for here. Buzz is also similar there with, people are talking about it, but not as much as It Ends With Us, so I'm not expecting a super big opening here, but definitely a much better than expected run. I think this is definitely going to be more backloaded than it is front loaded. I think it's going to have the legs that really make people go, oh wow, this did better than expected. So yeah, I'm expecting good things here. Nothing stupendous, but definitely a strong performer. But we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.